Diaspora Audio Enterprises presents
The Black Press Audio Digest, our weekly Los Angeles edition for the week of February 20th through 26th, 2014. Brought to you by McDonald's, applauding the few that inspire many with this year's 365 Black Award recipients. To learn more about this year's honorees, go to 365black.com. On the front page, guess who's coming to dinner? African Americans and their sordid history with food stereotypes. Our feature story. Family continues to pick up the pieces after 34 years. In the news, the truth about high blood pressure. Slow to sign up. Hotel workers may see wage hike. Bahati Foundation to benefit from SoCal cycling. The Black College Expo returns to LA. Lottery introduces California Black exclusive scratchers game. On the op-ed page, another Florida man gets away with murder by George E. Curry. And Clarence Thomas lacks institutional memory by Julianne Melville. In the art, culture, and entertainment section, Hollywood by choice. And when and where in LA events calendar. On this day in Black history and our student athlete of the week. And now to our cover story. Guess who's coming to dinner? African Americans and their sordid history with food stereotypes. By William Covington, OW contributor. Chicken and watermelon have been associated with the African American race in a derogatory form since its introduction to the New World. This biased affiliation resurfaces on university campuses during the beginning of each year. It never fails. White students will dance around in urban gear and take photos of themselves consuming fried chicken and watermelon to post later on Facebook. These so-called black-themed parties are on an upswing, according to sociologist Joe R. Fagan from the University of Florida. The first widely publicized incident describing such behavior took place in 1987. 4 years after President Reagan signed a bill making Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday a national holiday. That year, white fraternities hosted 3 different parties on 3 different campuses during King's holiday, all with watermelon and fried chicken. The food choice, which has been portrayed as a staple in Black America, has also been served as a Black celebratory dish in corporate cafeterias, schools, and other bastions of the so-called civilized world. According to Claire Schmidt, a professor at the University of Missouri and a specialist on race and folklore, D.W. Griffith's 1915 silent drama, Birth of a Nation, may be the culprit of this association. The movie has a scene depicting a group of African-American actors portraying shiftless elected officials behaving like buffoons in a meeting. The Negro legislators are devouring chicken, drinking, and are kicking back with their feet resting on their desks. Professor Gary Prebula of California State University, Long Beach Film and Electronic Arts Department believes movies like Birth of a Nation did impact the black race in a negative way, but reminds us that the first derogatory movie portraying African Americans' lust for watermelon as a food source took place 7 years prior in 1896 with Thomas Edison's production of the silent movie Watermelon Eating Contest. Blacks are depicted in this short film devouring watermelon like a school of sharks eating its prey. Prebula says this film, combined with other derogatory films that have followed it, have been ingrained in our minds that black folks love watermelon. Statistically, Asian Americans and Hispanics actually consume more watermelon than African Americans. A report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture states that African Americans eat less watermelon than most other races, and that white Americans consume the most. Yet historically, African Americans have been the most closely associated with the fruit. According to food archaeologist Dwight Ishnock, the unfounded connection stems from the antebellum South and a misunderstanding of African American slave behaviors in an attempt to survive. Slaves who sometimes planted watermelon in the cotton or cornfields used the fruit as hydration while working 14-hour days picking cotton and other crops in the harsh sun on hot summer days. Ishnock believes there were also acts of passive rebellion during the Civil War. Slaves would commit silent sabotage or day-to-day acts of resistance, which included stealing food, such as chickens and watermelon, which were readily available and fair game. African Americans usually ate fried chicken on Sundays, a tradition still practiced today. Blacks were the first to experiment with seasoning. It helped to mask the taste of tainted or spoiled meat, and frying was a prevalent practice due to the fact that slaves did not have access to ovens. During the Great Migration of African Americans to the West, having a food that was compact and provided nutrition was essential when traveling through southern states. Trains would often stop to take on water and coal, a necessity for steam locomotives. Often these stops allowed the average traveler to leave the passenger car and get a bite to eat or explore. However, if you were African American, the safest place to remain was on the train due to lynchings. This is the era when the shoebox lunch became a travel companion. According to author William Forson, author of Building Houses Out of Chicken Legs, Black Women, Food, and Power, during the Great Migration, African American women took advantage of rail travel and became entrepreneurs, known as waiter carriers. These women would wait at a train station and sell shoebox lunches filled with fried chicken and sweet potato pie. According to Williams Forson, these early entrepreneurs were the predecessors to eateries like Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles, Wingstop restaurants, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Jim Dandy, and Popeyes, Harlan Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and Maxim Lester Graham, Coon's Chicken, may have noticed African American waiter carriers and the success they had with selling shoebox chicken. Both had access to funds and took the fried chicken business to a whole new level. There have been claims that Colonel Harlan Sanders ripped off the KFC recipe from an African American woman by the name of Mrs. Childress and paid her $1,200 in back pay. Sanders' marketing strategy was completely different from the Coon Chicken Inn, instead plastering his restaurants with a white face and an antebellum South aristocratic tinge. Colonel. KFC is the second largest franchise in the world and is now worth $15 billion in sales. Sanders' company makes billions off of a food African Americans use just to survive and have been made a mockery of it because of it ever since. And the rest is history. And now to our feature story. Cash Register, that's K-A-S-H, Register, says faith, courage guided him in the wait for freedom. Family continues to pick up the pieces after 34 years by Meredith Hayes, OW staff writer.
Last November, Cash Delano Register was released from prison after 34 years when a Los Angeles Superior Court judge found the man had been wrongly convicted of murder and overturned the conviction. He's had to organize a new life these past 4 months, trying to regain his young adult years, which were snatched away in 1979 when a high school classmate testified that he shot and killed an elderly neighbor. Now 53, Register made 11 appearances before the parole board and maintained his innocence each time. The sister of Brenda Anderson, the so-called eyewitness, told officials that the whole story was a lie. Though Register's exoneration stems primarily from research and new evidence provided by the Project for the Innocent at Loyola Marymount University, a fellow inmate may equally share in righting the wrong perpetrated in 1979. Keith Chandler was a library clerk at Folsom State Prison, who, upon his release, always remembered that Register would profess his innocence, yet would not let dire circumstances ruin his faith and his spirit. When Chandler left prison, one of his first acts was to write a petition to get a judge to appoint Register with an attorney. He found a team of attorneys and students from Loyola, and they presented a new case, this time including testimony from Sheila Vanderkamp, the estranged sister of Anderson, who said her sibling lied during her testimony in Register's trial. A number of wrongly convicted Americans were set free last year, including 6 from California. Texas led the way with 13 exonerations, followed by Illinois with 9, New York with 8, and Washington with 7. About 2/3 of the 87 exonerations involve rape and or murder convictions. Many of the overturned sentences were a result of false confessions after it was revealed that no crime was committed. A report submitted last year by the National Registry of Exonerations revealed that there had been 1,281 known exonerations identified by the end of 2013. The data had been gathered from 46 states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the military, and at least 23 federal districts. The main reason for the rapid increase in the number of exonerations in California and later in New York is the nature of the searches we have been conducting, the report stated. At the end of 2012, California had reported 119 exonerations since 1989. On Sunday, the Friends of Cash Register will host a celebration and fundraiser from 2 to 5 p.m. at Buffalo Wild Wings at the Baldwin Hills Plaza, located at 3939 Crenshaw Boulevard. Organizers suggest a donation of $25 to help Register and his family. Esselwan Books, located at 4327 Degnan Boulevard, is a sponsor of the event. For more details, call 323-290-1048.
In the news, Bahati Foundation to benefit from SoCal Cycling Summit. Special guest speaker, cycling coach Chris Carmichael, by our weekly staff.
The Bahati Foundation was chosen as the prime beneficiary of the SoCal Cycling Summit, held January 14th at the iconic Oakley corporate headquarters in Foothill Ranch. Chris Carmichael, renowned coach and author of The Time-Crunched Cyclist, received an enthusiastic reception as the featured speaker. Founded by 7-time U.S. champion and Compton native Rahsaan Bahati, the Bahati Foundation is a cycling outreach program for urban youth designed to inspire and empower through the sport of cycling. The 400-seat amphitheater was filled with participants from Olympic medalists to serious weekend enthusiasts to hear Carmichael discuss his revolutionary time-crunched cyclist technique. The SoCal Cycling Summit is a wonderful platform for our foundation to share its vision in providing assistance to inner-city youth through cycling, said Bahati. This year, the enthusiasm and support for the SoCal Cycling Summit really grew from last year's event, said Anthony Reguero, president of Promotions Team Extraordinaire, PTE, a preeminent Southern California sports promotion and marketing firm. Athletes want to stay engaged in the sports they love, but it can be a difficult balance for working parents and career professionals. The Time-Crunched Athlete Program is a new approach to endurance training, one that actually takes advantage of a busy athlete's limited training time. It's been successful for tens of thousands of athletes, and I look forward to sharing the program with everyone at the SoCal Cycling Summit, stated Carmichael. There was an estimated $10,000 in raffle prizes raised. Attendees could attend a VIP dinner with Carmichael, a special VIP reception with Bahati, and product exhibitors from the cycling industry were part of the evening's activities. A portion of the SoCal Cycling Summit proceeds will go to the Bahati Foundation and its Adopt a School program. For more information about the SoCal Cycling Summit, visit pteevents.com. That's pteevents.com. Or call 949-336-4898. 949-336-4898.
Also in the news, the truth about high blood pressure. February is Black History and Heart Awareness Month. By Mandel Briggs Melanson, Ph.D.
With February being Black History Month and Heart Awareness Month, it's a good time to talk about something that uniquely impacts our community more than any other. It's high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. According to the American Heart Association, African Americans develop high blood pressure at younger ages than any other groups in the United States. We are more likely to develop complications associated with high blood pressure, which include stroke, kidney disease, blindness, dementia, and heart disease. Blood pressure is the force of blood pushing against the walls of the arteries that carry blood from the heart to other parts of the body. If a person has high blood pressure, it means the walls of the arteries are receiving too much pressure repeatedly, which can cause permanent damage to the arteries, heart disease, and stroke. Unlike many other health problems, people with high blood pressure often have little or no symptoms until the high blood pressure causes damage to the heart or other organs over time. This is why doctors often call high blood pressure the silent killer. It is important to make sure we get our blood pressure checked consistently. When you go to the doctor, they will measure two numbers when checking your blood pressure. The top number is the systolic blood pressure, which is the force of blood in your arteries during a heartbeat. The bottom number is the diastolic blood pressure, which is the force of blood in your arteries between heartbeats. Each of these numbers are important and should be monitored. Normal blood pressure is when the systolic number is less than 120 and the diastolic is less than 80. Pre-hypertension is when the systolic number is 120 to 139 and the diastolic number is 80 to 89. Hypertension stage 1 is a systolic rate of 140 to 159 and the diastolic number is 90 to 99. And lastly, hypertension stage 2 is a systolic rate of 160 or higher and diastolic rate of 100 or higher. Dr. Briggs Melanson says that high systolic or diastolic blood pressure can be avoided with healthy lifestyle behaviors, which include eating a balanced diet with vegetables, whole grains, and lean meats. reducing salt in homemade or prepackaged goods, taking part in regular physical activities, maintaining a healthy weight, finding successful ways to manage stress, not smoking, limiting alcoholic drinks, and taking your medication as prescribed by your doctor. High blood pressure is a common health condition that can lead to health disease and stroke. So take control of your blood pressure and your health by making the right choices that lead to a healthier you. Contact your healthcare provider today to make an appointment. If you don't have insurance, log on to www.coveredca.com. That's coveredca.com to see if you qualify for new coverage options.
The Black College Expo returns to LA. Students get access to scholarships up to $100,000 by OW staff.
The Black College Expo, BCE, celebrates its 15th year of helping more than 375,000 students get into college and giving away more than $500,000 in scholarships. The BCE returns with new information and resources to help students succeed. The expo will take place on Saturday, February 22nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Los Angeles Convention Center with a celebrity-hosted entertainment segment from 3 to 5 p.m., which includes a scholarship presentation, high school and fraternity step show, and a surprise artist performance to culminate the day's event. This year's national mission is to get more than 50,000 students accepted into a college and provide resources to help students fund their education and become successful leaders. Key seminar topics include hot careers, financial literacy, finding money for college, and 411 for the student athlete. Students will have the opportunity to meet up to 100 college recruiters from all over the U.S., including more than 40 of the most prestigious historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs. Students in the 11th and 12th grades will have the opportunity to get accepted into college on the spot and apply for scholarships. Also, students who play an instrument or who have vocal talent will have the opportunity to win band and music scholarships. The Black College Expo is a program of the National College Resources Foundation, NCRF, a 501c3 nonprofit organization functioning daily as a full-service student outreach program. The BCE's mission is to curtail the high school dropout rate, currently 30% nationally, according to the Department of Education, and to increase the enrollment to degree and/or certificate programs among underserved and underrepresented students and their families. The Black College Expo visits 5 cities annually throughout the year, including Atlanta, Los Angeles, Oakland, Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Houston. The organization provides free services to connect students directly to college, scholarships, academic support, college readiness, college and career planning, student-athlete assistance and resources, as well as financial literacy. Our goal is to make sure students are trained, skilled, and educated so they can be prepared for positive post-secondary pursuits, says founder Teresa Price. The Black College Expo is sponsored by McDonald's, Toyota, Union Bank, Edison International, U.S. Army, the Gas Company, Cal State Monterey Bay, and Wells Fargo. For additional information about tickets, group sales, vendor booths, and sponsorship opportunities, contact the Black College Expo headquarters at 877-427-4100, 877-427-4100, or visit blackcollegeexpo.com.
Also in the news, hotel workers may see wage hike by OW staff.
New rate may far exceed wages of federal workers. About 300 hotel and restaurant workers rallied yesterday at the Westin Hotel at LAX in support of the Los Angeles City Council's proposal to increase their minimum wage to $15.37 per hour. An ordinance supported by council members Karen Price, Nuri Martinez, and Mike Bonin would require the city's 87 large hotels to pay the new living wage. That's almost double California's present $8 per hour minimum wage, and more than a new national minimum wage for some federal workers to $10.10 per hour proposed this month by President Barack Obama. California will increase its minimum wage to $9 per hour in July. In a city where the poverty rate is a staggering 19%, Price said on Tuesday, "We have created this barbell economy for the rich and poor and a disappearing middle class. Hotel workers have to work 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet." The 3 city council members believe the city's investment in the tourism industry, from the new Bradley Terminal at LAX construction of the 73-story Wilshire Grand Center downtown and public locations like Venice Beach and Griffith Park, provides the economic connection needed to increase the living wage. The movement for more take-home pay for the primarily immigrant workers who labor at the various hotels, resorts, and leisure attractions locally has been centered around LAX since 2007, where concessionaires and airport area hotels are required to pay a living wage to their employees. Right now, the living wage law requires payments of $10.30 per hour with benefits or $14.80 without. The measure would not apply to hotels that have labor agreements. Business groups and hotel owners have sharply criticized the ordinance, which they claim could slow down the economy just when it's on the upswing. Supporters don't buy the argument. "We're here today because last night a woman came home after working a long day as a hotel maid, but she worried because even though she earned pay that day, she did not earn enough to fix the bald tire on her husband's car or buy a pair of shoes for her daughter," Boning said this week. When most housekeepers are women, they are paid the lowest in the industry. Carl Schatz, president of the Central City Association, warned of job cuts if the measure is voted through. "I have heard from one boutique hotel owner who said they are rethinking their plans," Schatz said. "That would be a loss of 650 permanent jobs and 350 construction jobs. We think this needs to be thought out more."
Lottery introduces California Black exclusive Scratchers game.
Lady Luck is back, and she's on the hunt again. This time she's looking to award Californians with 24 life-changing top prizes of $1 million each. Yes, we're talking potentially 7 figures for a $10 investment on the lottery's latest scratcher game, California Black exclusive. And wait until you see it. It's unlike any games currently on the market. Whereas most tickets feature bright colors and sparky patterns, this $10 game is deep black with a touch of gold. We know the color black is steeped with imagery, including sophistication and mystery. If you're hoping this game is as easy to play as it is fun to hold, you're in luck. Just match any of your numbers to any of the 6 winning numbers and win that prize. Uncover a 10x symbol to automatically win 10 times that prize. Uncover a 20x symbol to automatically win 20 times that prize. Uncover a win symbol and win all 20 prizes automatically. The odds of winning the $1 million top prize are 1 in 1.2 million. The odds of winning any of the other cash prizes from $10 up to $20,000 are 1 in 4.11 million. Don't forget, every winning ticket can be entered into our Second Chance program for another try at becoming California's latest millionaire. And that's not all. The California Lottery has added even more excitement by giving players an extra second chance code to win $1 million in cash during our end of the game draw. On the back of every California Black exclusive ticket is a QR or quick response code. It's a portal to Lady Luck's Challenge, our new exclusive online match game that challenges your memory. There, you can enter your second chance code from your non-winning California Black exclusive $10 scratchers are now available at more than 21,000 participating lottery retail locations throughout the state. Remember, luck can strike anywhere, anytime. The game is part of the lottery's continued effort to give out more prizes, create more winners, and earn more money for California public schools. This past fiscal year, the sale of lottery products generated $1.28 billion for students. The 13th consecutive year, more than $1 billion was distributed to public schools throughout the state. Although a modest amount once divided between 1,600 public school districts, teachers and administrators count on these funds to continue critical learning programs, purchase equipment, and even pay teacher salaries. The mission of the California Lottery is to provide supplemental funding to California schools while simultaneously supporting local communities. More than 95 cents of every dollar spent by our players goes back to local communities in the form of contributions to public schools and colleges, prizes, and retail compensation. The California Lottery urges its customers to play responsibly and within their budgets. If you feel you have a gambling problem or know someone who does, you can get help at 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER.
And now to the art, culture, and entertainment page. Hollywood by Choice. Hollywood, a change is coming. By Gail Choice, OW contributor.
Can you feel it? There is something brewing in Hollywood, and it's big, really big. A change is coming to Tinseltown as a result of Hollywood's movers and shakers' never-ending quest to make more money without paying huge production costs. It happened once before thanks to the talent, skill, and cunning of legendary independent filmmaker Melvin Van Peebles. Van Peebles' 1971 Sweet Sweetback sparked a revolution, ushering in films written, produced, and directed by blacks. This time period was dubbed the Blaxploitation era, where Hollywood was churning out black films, some good, a lot bad, on a regular basis, and blacks were going to the theaters lining up to see them. From gangsters, horror flicks, love stories, comedies, and more, we got to see ourselves on the big screen, and then it all faded to black. Director-writer Spike Lee revitalized the movie-going audience with his clever films that gave us a taste of Greek life on a black college campus in 1988 with School Days, life on the East Coast in 1989 with Do the Right Thing, interracial love in 1991 with Jungle Fever, and other great films like Malcolm X in 1992. But it wasn't enough to shake things up. Lee continually admonished Hollywood for their lack of recognition of black talent. It must be noted that Lee was instrumental in establishing behind-the-camera careers, namely in the areas of publicity and promotion, advertising, and costume design, and other technical areas. Lee insisted that black professionals in these areas were permitted to work on his films, and they continue to work in Hollywood to this day. Then along came producer, writer, director Tyler Perry, who in 2005 brought black people back to the theater with Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Perry's critics often accused him of lowbrow comedy and celebrity black stereotypes. He was an outsider and marched to his own drum. He followed his heart, closed his ears to the staunch criticisms that came from Spike Lee and others, and simply moved forward. Others, such as Bishop T.D. Jakes, entered the world of Hollywood filmmaking in 2004 with Woman Thou Art Loosed, and continues to this day. After the unexpected box office success of The Best Man Holiday, Hollywood movers and shakers had to admit they have been underestimating the profitability of black films. Things are changing in Hollywood, and more than just black people are going to see these films. Many believe we are now experiencing a black Hollywood renaissance today. Black films are holding strong and making money at the box office. More and more black male stars are bankable, and black women are coming into their own. And a lot of the old taboos are being lifted when it comes to who can freely love a black woman on the big and little screen. Independent filmmakers owe an attitude of gratitude to filmmaker Melvin Van Peebles, who showed us that we have the ability to make and showcase our films. Black film festivals, and film festivals in general, provide today's filmmakers with an opportunity to showcase their films and get them seen by movie-going audiences. The 22nd Annual Pan-African Film Festival came to a close in Los Angeles this week, screening 172 films representing 46 countries across the diaspora. Young filmmakers converged on Los Angeles and Hollywood with dreams of one day making an imprint not only in their native lands, but in Hollywood as well. The dream continues.
And now the op-ed page. Counting the Cost. Clarence Thomas Lacks Institutional Memory by Julianne Melvaux, Trice Edney columnist.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas is at it again. Whenever he opens his mouth about race, he displays a surprising myopia for a 65-year-old African-American man who was raised in the Deep South during a segregated era. During his confirmation hearing and around it, Mr. Thomas excoriated his family, speaking of his sister as someone, and I paraphrase, waiting around for her welfare check. He was equally contemptuous of other members of his family, even as they were loyal to him and attended some of his hearings. A notable point in his confirmation hearing was a moment when he said he experienced the pain of racism when his grandmother could not use a segregated bathroom. I'd remind him now, as I did in a column then, that it wasn't personal, and it wasn't just his grandmother. It was everybody's grandmother. That's the collective and institutional knowledge that Thomas lacks. Thus, when he went to Atlantic University in West Palm Beach and said, according to Yahoo News, "My sadness is that we are probably today more race and difference conscious than I was in the 1960s when I went to school. To my knowledge, I was the first black kid in Savannah to go to a white school. Rarely did the issue of race come up. Now, name a day it doesn't come up. Differences in race, differences in sex, somebody doesn't look at you right, somebody says something. Everybody is sensitive. If I had been as sensitive as that in the 1960s, I'd still be in Savannah. Every person in this room has endured a slight. Every person. Somebody has said something that has hurt their feelings or did something to them. People didn't talk about race much in the 1950s and early 60s, and when they did, then they did, with a whisper. When Emmett Till was killed, there were few African Americans who took white folks to account for this, except for the large African American organizations like the NAACP. Because of their very public stance on the issue, the organization was described as subversive, their members and members of other organizations as outside agitators. Before Till, there were thousands of incidents, few making headlines. For African Americans, acts that left blacks lynched and killed, run off their property, and just plain disappeared were not much discussed. It was understood that those harassed were those who stood up to the white man. For whites, this fatal harassment of people of African descent, the outright theft of property, rape of women, and a litany of other oppressions was nothing more than business as usual. White men could rape black women, beat up or kill black men, and do whatever they wanted without fearing reprisals. Some of these oppressions are only now being uncovered. Of course people are talking about race. Furthermore, the things like employment discrimination are not simple slights that result in hurt feelings. Instead, they are institutional attacks on a community's economic well-being. Differences in well-documented ways that interest rates are offered for homes and automobiles are not slights but pernicious economic discrimination. Thomas willfully reduces institutional racism to oversensitivity, when one more cognizant of his history might acknowledge that both micro and macro inequities impact economic advancement and the quality of life. Thomas is joined by George Zimmerman, who says his massacre of Trayvon Martin has nothing to do with race and has cast himself as the victim in a tragedy he perpetuated. Thus, Michael Dunn, objecting to loud music, aimed multiple bullets at a vehicle holding 4 young black men, killing one, Jordan Davis, who was leaning away from the window of the vehicle, weaponless. Hiding behind the stand your ground law, he says he felt threatened. Others posit, more correctly, that he objected to a young man mouthing off at him when he asked them to turn down their music. If he felt so threatened, why did he even bother to approach the car of young men minding their business? What has race got to do with it? In the time when people didn't talk about race, this question might not be asked. Today, because people perceive slights like the murder of young black men, the question of race inevitably and appropriately comes up. Thomas dissented in the Hudson case, which awarded an inmate $800 after he claimed cruel and unusual punishment when he was beaten so badly that his dental plate was broken in his mouth. I guess he regarded the police brutality as a simple slight. People talk about race and gender more because they are not muzzled by institutional racism that made it impossible to have these conversations without consequence, because race champions were beaten, firebombed, and killed because they dared seek social and economic justice. Thomas may lack institutional memory, but he frankly makes a fool of himself when he openly displays his ignorance.
The op-ed page continues with another Florida man gets away with murder. Michael Dunn verdict falls short by George E. Curry, NNPA columnist. As we approach the second anniversary of Trayvon Martin's murder in Sanford, Florida, justice again has been shortchanged in the Sunshine State. It was incredulous that George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watchman and a wannabe cop, was not found guilty of murder after killing the unarmed black teenager who had visited a nearby convenience store to purchase a bag of Skittles and a can of Arizona tea. Last Saturday, a hung jury could not decide whether Michael Dunn, a 47-year-old white computer programmer, was guilty of murdering Jordan Davis by fatally shooting him. According to court testimony, Dunn pulled into the parking lot of the Jacksonville convenience store and became involved in an argument after he accused 17-year-old Jordan Davis and 3 of his teenage friends of playing their music too loudly. Apparently, an argument erupted. Dunn's lawyer claims that Davis used vulgarity-laden language to tell his client what to do to himself. Witnesses said Dunn shouted at Davis, "You can't talk to me that way." And to prove his point, Dunn opened fire on the black teenagers, striking Jordan Davis twice. Even as the teens peeled rubber trying to get away, Dunn, 6'4" and 280 pounds, continued to shoot into the vehicle, firing 10 times in all. And what did Dunn do after he killed the black teenager? He returned to his hotel room, where he was staying after attending his son's wedding. He acted as if he had just finished a routine day at the office. He didn't bother to notify police. Dunn acted as if nothing had happened. According to Rolling Stone, Dunn told detectives, "They didn't follow my orders. What was I supposed to do if they wouldn't listen? For starters, he wasn't supposed to take the kid's life. But he did." His lawyer argues that Dunn was standing his ground. His lawyer, Corey Strolla, told Rolling Stone last year, "I didn't have to prove the threat, just that Mike Dunn believed it." Eventually, Strolla sold the jury on that belief. They couldn't agree that his client murdered Jordan Davis, who was shot twice. But in their contorted reasoning, they found him guilty of 3 counts of attempted second-degree murder. In other words, he was not guilty of murdering Davis, but was guilty of attempting to murder Davis's 3 friends, neither of whom was struck by a bullet. Still, he'll probably die in prison. And if some of the true thugs catch up with him in the slammer, he might not like how they're going to talk to him. Also on the op-ed page, Black History Month, needed now more than ever, by Mark H. Morial, NNPA columnist.
There is no more powerful force than a people steeped in their history, and there is no higher cause than honoring our struggle and ancestors by remembering. Quote by Lonnie Bunch, founding director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Ever since the 2009 election of Barack Obama as America's first black president and the 100th anniversary of the National Urban League in 2010, the perennial debate about the need for Black History Month has intensified. Some have questioned the need for a special month to recognize the many unknown and unsung achievements of African Americans. With Obama as president, the logic goes, we have now achieved Dr. King's dream of a non-racial America where everyone is judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. I wish it were so. Last year, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington and the passage of the Voting Rights Act. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the repeal of the poll tax, but the discrimination remains. All one needs to do is look at the glaring disparities between blacks and whites in income, employment, incarceration rates, and educational achievement and health status to see that race still matters in America. Income inequality and equal opportunity are still part of the unfinished business of American democracy. In 1926, after centuries of blacks being excluded not only from the mainstream of American life, but also from the textbooks in our schools, African-American historian Carter G. Woodson did a service to all Americans when he created Negro History Week, which was expanded to Black History Month in 1976. Woodson's vision was one of unity and inclusion. He said, "What we need is not a history of selected races or nations, but the history of the world, void of national bias, race, hate, and religious prejudice." That is a goal that America is still struggling to achieve. In fact, legislatures in a number of states, including New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, have passed laws mandating or encouraging teachers to broaden their history courses to include more ethnic, racial, and gender diversity. That is why we still recognize March as Women's History Month, May as Jewish American History Month, September 15th to October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month, and February as Black History Month. These celebrations serve a dual purpose. First, to build self-esteem among historically oppressed people, and second, to remind all Americans that in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds, our diversity is our greatest strength. Black history is American history. While the story of achievements of African Americans are especially celebrated this month, the contributions we have made and the struggles we still face deserve recognition every day of the year. Next year, for the first time, Black history will enter the mainstream when the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture opens in the National Mall in Washington. The museum describes itself as a place of meaning, of memory, of reflection, of laughter, and of hope. It should be a beacon that reminds us of what we were, what challenges we still face, and point us towards what we can become. As we honor those who have made history, we must also recognize that we are history in the making. Through our work, commitment to equality, and civic engagement, we can and we must, in the words of President Obama, continue to right the wrongs of history and make our world anew.
It's time for the OW Events Calendar. Now through April 6th, soul-stirring African-American self-taught artists from the South will be on display at CAAM, 600 State Drive, LA. It's free. For info, 213-744-7432. Now through May 5th, the California African American Museum will host an opening reception and artist talk for its latest exhibition, A Memoir in Movement, Carmen de Navidad and Jeffrey Holder, now on view through May 5th. It's free. Call 213-744-2024. February 25th and 27th. Need grant money to achieve your dream of buying a home, starting a business, or going to school? Rise Financial Pathways is seeking qualified applicants to participate in the $2,500 matching grant program. For more information, call 323-846-1483 or apply online at risela.org. February 22nd and 26th, Tony Winter stars in The Devil and Billy Markham at Theater, 5041 West Pico Boulevard at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays and 2 p.m. on Saturdays. Recommended for adults only. Tickets are $20. For more information, call 818-821-8081. February 26th, join AARP California in celebrating Black History Month with a screening of Lee Daniels' The Butler at the Grove Pacific Theaters, 189 The Grove Drive, LA, from 7 till 9:30 p.m. Admission is free. For info, call 877-926-8300. Visit us at ourweekly.com/events for a complete events calendar listing. To submit your calendar listing, email ourcalendar@ourweekly.com 2 weeks prior to the event. Thank you for listening to the Black Press Audio Digest Our Weekly LA edition for the week of February 20th through 26th, 2014. Brought to you by McDonald's, applauding the few that inspire many with this year's 365 Black Award recipients. To learn more about this year's honorees, go to 365black.com. The Black Press Audio Digest Our Weekly LA edition is a production of
Diaspora Audio Enterprises.